Yeah, I want to go next year so I can meet the Ed Plumacher fan club.
Which I'm sure is vast.
All 4 members. Well,
Thanks,
Laura, hey, it's growing. Next year it might be 8 members.
Welcome to iAccess VO with Brian Fischler and Ed Plumacher. Making it happen with VoiceOver accessibility. And now, here's Brian and Ed.
Welcome back to yet another episode of iAccess VO. Ed, I guess you could call this our Super CSUN episode.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that happens once a year, and I think for the first time, Brian, we're going to have some not one guest return, but I believe we have 3 guests returning to give us their perspective on what CSUN was like. So, in a little bit we'll join them, but let's get down to discussing something that I did, because my initial desire was to go to CSUN this year, but unfortunately due to some family issues and with my parents, I ended up going to Las Vegas and spending a week there. But one thing I did, Brian, but before I made my trip, I took advantage of Netflix's new download feature. So I was able to download some nice things onto my iPhone and keep myself occupied and entertained while in airports and on the flights.
It's interesting because Netflix for the longest time, as we know, fought described video, and they were kind of the bane of my existence. And now this is just Netflix did a complete 180, and they've become one of the best companies when it comes to accessibility, because I don't know if you heard, did you hear that they, in one of their updates, they broke the described video feature?
Yes, you and I had a discussion about that, and I know it was like, okay, how long is this going to take? And I think it was less than like 3 business days, and they had a brand new app out correcting the broken accessibility. I think that was phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great. Things are going to break from time to time, and yeah, it's going to be frustrating, but for a company like Netflix to get a fix out that quickly, I was very impressed. And it's kind of like these companies like Microsoft and other companies that are really stepping up their game, and Netflix, they seem to be the biggest supporter out there of described video. iTunes has gotten a lot more titles, but still seeing nothing from Amazon, nothing from HBO, nothing from Showtime, and really have to compliment Netflix because it's going on about, close to 2 years now that they've been supporting described video, and they really do a quality job with their described video, because trust me, I've seen some programs, for example, on ABC, and the described video is just not very well done, and so it's nice to see, 1, they're committed to it, and 2, they're doing a great job with it.
Oh, yeah. But the ability just to take your entertainment with you on the road is just great, to be able to download, a described program or an entire series, and take it with you and watch it at your discretion without having to worry about Wi-Fi connectivity or anything else like that was great. I mean,
now, how does that work? Does you just fire up the app and the programs? Is there a download tab? I've yet to even look into downloading anything.
Yeah, so basically you go in and you download it, and I think when we first discussed this, I had told you I had gone in and I think I downloaded an episode of House of Cards, and the described video downloaded with it, so that was really, really good. So what I did on my trip home is I actually downloaded Ken Burns's documentary on the Civil War, which was 9 episodes. So we're talking about 10 to 11 hours of content. And I just went in there and downloaded each show, and then it shows up in my list because it's something that I had done. So I would fire up the app, I would turn the rotor to headings and flick down to my lists, find Ken Burns's series, and then open it up. And whatever I had listened to last and hadn't finished would be at the top to just hit play again. Or if I wanted to go back and listen to something because I may have dozed off or fallen asleep and missed it, you could just flick to the right and go through the different episodes and just fire them up, and it would start over, and then then it worked well for finding the time lapse on it, and I would just touch that, and then by flicking up or down, it would jump in increments of 5 or 7 or 8 minutes, and it was very easy to navigate. It was very user friendly, and it worked well with VoiceOver. No complaints at all about Netflix for me.
Yeah, now you just got to remember to download that before you travel, because normally it's on your way to Vegas that you have a lot of time issues in getting there.
Yeah, no, I've had some issues getting to Vegas. Getting there this time was no different. I got there hours after I was supposed to be there. But the one thing I will say, though, is I did notice that when you download it, you only have so much time to watch it. I believe it's a matter of like 3 or 4 days that it's available. So it's not like you download it and you have it forever. I mean, you can always re-download it as long as it's still available on Netflix, and they do rotate their content. So, but it is something that you do, for making, I guess, decisions on trips and things like that.
Yeah, and for those of you who have never watched a Ken Burns documentary series, you're really missing out, because he is hands down, I think, the best documentary filmmaker out there. I've watched several of his series, going back to his baseball series, which is one of my all-time favorites. And, I just noticed, because he did 2 new hours, I think, for baseball a few years ago, and they all have described video. So I've yet to watch them, but I have them on my TiVo, and maybe I'll watch them tonight. But
Now, the Civil War series that I did watch was not described, but it doesn't have to be. It's very informative, and the narration is superb. So it really, you didn't have to see it. I just put my screen on like 10%, so I wasn't going to burn up a lot of battery power, and it was great to listen to the entire thing.
And spoiler alert, the North did win, right?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Now, Ed, I had sent you an article, and this was an idea that I had, because, we've heard phenomenal things about Aira. The only downside to Aira is the cost. Not everybody could afford it. Hopefully, maybe they'll be streamlining that, and maybe one day it will be a affordable solution for everyone. But I came across an article, with Snapchat, and they've come up with these goggles, spectacles they're called, and they're only about $110, and the spectacles have cameras built into them. And my thought was, would there be a way for a blind person to use these or some other kind of glasses and make their own kind of poor man's Aira with FaceTime?
Yeah, and we started having that conversation about it. If you were able to integrate some kind of camera system that was built into glasses similar to what you have with these spectacles, and then have it integrate with either FaceTime or Google Duo or some kind of application where you could actually interface with somebody else, even something like Be My Eyes, where you could have a volunteer help you, where you have a hands-free environment. I mean, I think it's doable. It's a matter of having the right development tools and having the right hardware, but I don't see why that couldn't happen, to have something that would not be as efficient, say, as Aira, or having somebody who is trained and you have an entire profile built in with them, but just it would make a difference. I mean, some people do that now, and I've done that as well when I travel, where I'll open up my phone and I'll turn on FaceTime and I'll ask for a sighted assistance from someone in my family or something like that, or even use Be My Eyes. But yeah, I don't see why that could not be possible.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a ton of information about these spectacles. From what I don't even have Snapchat on my phone, but from what I understand, the camera takes photos in real time and it's uploading them to your Snapchat account. So I figure it would just be the right development and everything, like you said, where maybe we're not too far off from creating a poor man's Aira and that sort of thing, which would be pretty interesting to connect to a family or a friend or something, and they might be able to see everything that's around you, which would be nice to have and everything. So
absolutely. And I do know there are camera systems out there that do that, where you could actually record as you're walking along. And I've looked at binaural microphones as well for capturing the sound environment for when you're moving around things. So the technology is there. It's just getting the right developer to do the right system integration to put the package together.
Yeah, and let us know if you have any ideas about how to create a poor man's Aira. You can email us in at iaccessvo@gmail.com or tweet us in at iaccessvo and let us know your thoughts. But, Ed, it's already March, man. The year's flying by, and March to me is my busiest month of the year because it's fantasy baseball drafting season.
Yeah, fantasy baseball drafting season. I know you've started up the iAccessVO Fantasy Baseball League. I think you have like 7 or 8 members already, so there's openings for 3 or 4 more people. So, contact us also at iaccessvo@gmail.com and let us know if you're interested in doing the fantasy baseball. And then we also have the March Madness League going on too. So let's get that fired up.
Yeah, and for March Madness, I think you might be able to join without sending us an email. If you go into the Yahoo Fantasy app, you tap on the March Madness, and you could probably enter the league name, which is iAccessVO, and then the password to get in the league is blind because we lacked creativity when creating that password. So go ahead and join us for some March silliness, or pardon me, March madness, and have a little fun. And all this is free, by the way. You just need a Yahoo account and then the free Yahoo Fantasy app, which is 100% accessible. And one of the things I would have loved to have seen at CSUN was what Yahoo had to say, Ed.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Let's find out if any of our guests that we're going to have on can let us know that, because I think we have Laura Legendary, Alan Gunzburg, and Allison Hartley joining us to give us their perspectives on CSUN.
Yeah, let's go check out what they have to say. Now we'd like to welcome back Laura Legendary. How you doing today, Laura?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen.
Welcome back, Laura. It's good to have you on, and so glad to hear you were at CSUN, which is something I didn't get to do this year, but hopefully you can fill us in a little bit.
Yeah.
That'd be my pleasure.
Now, what did you happen to see at CSUN that you liked this year?
I've been going to the CSUN Conference on Disabilities for a long time. I don't go every year, but I try to go every year. And every year, I geek out on all the super cool assistive technology in the exhibit hall. But to be honest with you, each year, what I come away with, my big takeaway, is always the same thing. And that is, I am most impressed by the people. The people who present, the people who offer products and services in the exhibit hall, the people who are the accessibility officers or the coders or the testers or the teachers. It never ceases to amaze me the degree to which people have devoted their lives or their entire careers to enabling people like me to live a greater quality of life through their expertise. And that always makes me come away feeling incredibly uplifted and grateful.
Yeah, no, that's a perspective that a lot of people don't think about. That they go there for me, and a lot of times they don't think about all the incredible people that are doing the work to make our lives that much better, which is really nice to hear and everything. Now, you were there also from a sales standpoint and getting out to meet some of your customers. So what do you enjoy most about getting to meet some of your customers in person?
Well, again, the people. I wasn't actually there in a sales capacity because my products are not tech related. For those in your audience who don't know, I'm the owner of Elegant Insights Braille Creations, and we offer jewelry and accessories that are embossed in Braille. But since my products aren't tech related, I'm not able to set up a booth in the exhibit hall. It's not an appropriate product for sale there at that particular conference. But what I did do was sort of take a marketing opportunity and offer my customers an opportunity to save a little bit of money by ordering something from me and avoiding the shipping fee by picking it up at the conference. So I had a bunch of orders call and place advance orders for items that I delivered at the conference. And for me, meeting my customers is a great joy. And my customers are so creative and they're so wonderful. And getting to meet them always inspires me to do more for them. And we made some pretty custom things. There were some people who purchased things directly from the website. And I just love to see their reaction when they get their hands on their beautiful Braille jewelry.
Yeah, I would imagine that the hands-on, face-to-face interaction with your clients really has to help you to just really decipher what the needs are, what the wants are, and just to get the feedback from them in real time, it has to be phenomenal in the type of business you're running.
Well, I think a lot of people wonder, okay, how does this work? Braille jewelry? Really? And I always say feeling is believing, because you wonder how in the world does Braille and jewelry go together exactly. So I also brought some samples for people to check out for themselves. If they've always been curious about the jewelry, I brought a representative sampling of various things from the website if they wanted to just check it out and handle it and see what I do and how I do it. Then I made that available, and I actually did make a couple of sales from people who wanted to bring something home to a loved one. And it's just a great opportunity for me to explain what I do, because a lot of people don't want to just buy sight unseen off a website. They want to feel it and get some idea of what it is that I have to offer before they're going to spend their hard-earned money with me, and I don't blame them in the least. So I want to make every opportunity available for people to check it out for themselves before they make a buying decision.
Yeah, that's important, and it's great that they're able to do that, and you're able to do that. Now, I saw a tweet you had that the Google party was off the hook. So what was so great about the Google party?
Well, one of my favorite aspects of the CSUN Conference on Disability is the after-hours activities, and I enjoy networking and connecting people who I think should meet or who could benefit one another in some way. I have a tremendous network, and I'm particularly gratified by the fact that I've been to so many of these conferences. I know many of these people personally, so I know when I have a good connection to make. And I really enjoy going to these evening activities. And one of them I went to was the party hosted by Google. Thank you, Google. And they put on a great party every year. At least every year I've had an opportunity to go. And it was, let's just say, food and drink and great company and lots of laughs. And I had a marvelous time.
Yeah, that's the great thing about getting together with these events, because usually when you go to these type of conferences, it's the largest gathering of blind, visually impaired people that most people ever come in contact with, and just the ability to make connections and have conversations with people with similar situations and similar thoughts and similar issues, and it just all becomes just a very relaxing environment at that point.
Well, I do come at it a little differently because I'm not a coder. I'm not a tester. I'm not an assistive technology teacher. So I come at this more from a holistic sort of human end user consumer approach. But I also have a blog, and I've written about many people in the field of accessibility and assistive technology over the years. And it's an opportunity for me to meet some of these people personally, people about whom I want to write. There are certainly superstars in the field of accessibility that names we would know, but there are also people who grind it out every single day, people who are the unsung heroes, people that don't necessarily get the credit that they deserve. And I want to showcase them and shine the spotlight on some of the people whose names you may not know, but who are making no less valuable a contribution to accessibility and assistive technology.
Yeah, I want to go next year so I can meet the Ed Plumacher fan club.
Which I'm sure is vast.
All 4 members. Well,
Thanks.
Hey, it's growing. Next year it might be 8 members. Well, Laura, tell our listeners how they can check out your products, where you're at and everything on Twitter, and, let them know how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. I appreciate that very much. Of course, I'm everywhere. It's kind of hard to avoid me. At Elegant Insights on Twitter, I am @Elegant Insights, all one word. You can find my products at elegantinsightsjewelry.com. My most active account is my Accessible Info account on Twitter. I'm at @accessible_info. And my blog, which I will be updating this week with my thoughts on the CSUN conference, is at accessibleinsights.info/blog. That's accessibleinsights.info/blog.
Awesome. That's great stuff. And I have to say, since we did the interview last year, and I did order some stuff from your website, and I haven't lost my cane since. I have my little gamer dog tag hanging from it, and it's always easy to find. And I got the bigger dog tag that I wear every day as well. So it's good stuff.
So he hasn't lost
That's
himself
fantastic.
either.
That's right.
That's great. I'm glad you like it.
Laura, this was a lot of fun, and thanks so much for reporting back to us what you got out of CSUN this year.
Absolutely. My pleasure, gentlemen.
Great. Thank you, Laura.
Of course.
Now we'd like to welcome back another friend of the podcast who was at this year's CSUN, Alan Gunzburg. How you doing today, Alan?
I'm doing great, Brian. How you doing?
Not too bad. So as we're asking everybody we're having on this episode, start us off with what you saw at CSUN that impressed you this year.
Well, there were a few things, and as we talked about last year, I was very impressed by Uber, and this year they rewrote their service animal policy, and I can also say that since last CSUN, I've been traveling with Uber anywhere between 15 times a month, and I haven't had one rejection with my guide dog since.
Well, that's pretty impressive because I know a lot of people still having issues. It's nice that they rewrite their policy. Hopefully they're distributing it, and hopefully their drivers are reading it.
Well, here's the next part of they've also finished up the agreement with the NFB, and as part of the agreement, what they're doing is in the beginning of the month when they push out instructions, or they did for this month, when they push instructions out to their driver, there's a whole set of instructions about service dogs, what they are, that they must take them, whether they have a religious objection or an allergic objection, etc. And then they have to press OK to start the app. So they have to agree to it.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah, that's great that they're pushing that out from the drivers. So now we just have to hope all their drivers know how to read.
Well, I think the worst is what happened to you, Brian, about a month ago, where you called an Uber, you were waiting for the Uber to show up, and a regular taxi cab come up and picked you up like he was your Uber cab.
Yeah, and he even said he was Uber, and that was a whole fun experience when you get into a car and you say, "Oh, are you my Uber?" and they say yes. Yeah, and it ends up it was a yellow cab. So
yeah, and then you got billed for the Uber anyway, and had to fight that one, right?
Yeah, they ended up refunding it, and they gave me a $5. They charged me $5 or something for the missed ride, but then they did give me a $5 coupon. So all worked out in the end.
Well,
but,
I'll tell you my impression of Uber is that they're a service company. They're not a transportation company. They happen to deliver transportation. But when it comes to making a complaint, every single time that I've gotten response, and I'm talking both about missed rides and wrongly booked or wrongly charged programs. They're usually spot on, but that's a whole other end of the conversation. I'm hoping that the future of Uber extends to people like Brian, like me with the service dog, and anybody else who happens to travel with one, just to make it easier, because Uber may stink from time to time, but taxis stink too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they do. Just hope you don't have to have a sit down with the CEO because he has an interesting way of dealing with people.
Yeah, just make sure you fire up your camera so you can load it up to YouTube.
Exactly.
So, Alan, what besides Uber, what else did you see at CSUN this year that impressed you?
Well, the most interesting session that I sat in on, again, as you know, I'm really focused on transportation and getting around and making it easy for people to get around. So there was a presentation where Blind Square and Indoors and Sendero and a couple other people were in a room together presenting on indoor wayfinding. And they've been given a grant by NIDR, which is the National Institute of Disability Research, and that's a government agency, to collect and assemble all of the indoor data. Because we know that there's, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 places where the indoors have been mapped, but everybody may have an individual front end or a different front end that front ends that data. And we may want to use a different program. We may want to use Blind Square Inside. We may want to use Sendero, or we may want to use something completely different.
Okay.
So the idea is to have a strong database so that any front end that we choose can access the indoor data and be able to deliver it the way we want.
So they're looking to standardize the Bluetooth systems that are low energy systems that are emitting the location information, so that any front end can access it and know where it is, just like GPS is standardized.
They're trying to develop a language and a set of data instructions for the places that have been mapped. Now, there is the low energy Bluetooth, and then there's the beacons, which is an Apple type of product where you have to be even closer.
The iBeacon, yes.
Right, and then there's you go down. They go to wide frequency Wi-Fi. They can go down to sub-meter. They have that at Levi Stadium in San Francisco. They also have that at the airport. So there's some very complex ways of doing indoor wayfinding. There's some simpler ways, and I think part of this consortium that they're trying to develop might even come up with the best way. I also saw a nice app called Right Here, and the here is HEAR. It's a technology from Israel that allows you to know what's around you. It's still in its developing stages, but it was a pretty decent app, and they're also going to jump in on this consortium.
Yeah, I've already installed Right Here on my iPhone because I saw something about it earlier today, and it unfortunately only pulls up accessible locations, which I guess they've already mapped, and the closest one to me here in New York is in Chicago, and then the second one is the Wyatt in San Diego, but I don't know. I've got to play around with it. It'd be nice to see, how the mapping looks and everything. And I imagine as this develops, this will be a technology that's hopefully exploding all over the world and everything.
Well,
so
Right Here sounds better than Over There.
Ed, actually, it would be over there where I'm pointing. You got to get the whole name of the app.
Oh, that's right. All right.
I'm pretty excited. One of the toughest things that we have is getting from place to place to place, and independently, of course. So being able to find your way through an airport would be terrific. Being able without somebody grabbing you and taking you through the airport.
I don't know, Al. I'm getting pretty used to just sitting in the wheelchair and showing up at my gate. I'm not complaining anymore.
You see, I'm the opposite, man. When they come and give me the wheelchair, I say, well, where's the dog going to go? Oh, yeah.
On my lap.
Yeah. Well, your dog's better trained than my dog if he's getting in your lap.
Oh, man.
What else besides transportation piqued your interest?
Well, and then the last thing was, I sat through the the 508 refresh programs, and then I sat through the information on the CVAA, the 21st Century Communication Act. But the one thing that most of the experts felt is that there's enough case law, there's enough need, there's enough discernible need that things aren't really going to turn backwards. They're just wondering at what speed things are going to move forward.
Yeah, well, you got this year. Last year you got locked out, but you got to sit in this year on friend of the podcast Lainey Feingold's session. How was that?
I got to her room an hour early, and I sat down and waited, and the room filled up fairly quickly to the point where they started closing the doors with people and asking people who didn't have seats to leave. So I was very happy to have made her presentation. She did get an opportunity to repeat it, given to her by one of the vendors there called Level Up. And she repeated it one afternoon for the people who got shut out the first time. So everybody was very happy to see her.
Yeah, and mediation, hey, that's a big key. You know, it's always nice to approach everything from a friendly standpoint first, and to quote my favorite bouncer Dalton, be nice until it's time not to be nice.
I know you guys spoke about Aira before, but I took a demo. I was very impressed with the product, and my thoughts were about how it could be used to keep people who are losing their vision at work, giving them the ability to better communicate with their fellow employees, know who's around them, and that the little bits of information for meetings, and even working with things that that are outside of the scope of the regular job, meaning the computer, handwritten things and so forth and so on. That it may be really, really helpful for some people to have a product like this to keep the job that they're in.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, if you've got an employer that you could get to pay for it, that's even better. I think Aira is something that's very, very helpful.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, the applications that might be coming up in the way of the employment side. So we'll see how that goes going forward. I know it's still a company in infancy, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about them going forward.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Alan, for letting us know. And let everybody know your Twitter handle, because Alan, although you might not recognize his name, you might recognize his Twitter handle. He shares an awful lot of great information on all aspects of life for people in the blind community. So where can the people find you on Twitter, Alan?
Well, Twitter, the easiest way is at Alan Gunzburg, or ALANGUNZBURG, or Blind Leading the Blind.
Very good. Awesome. Hey, Alan, thanks again. I know you helped us out last year at CSUN. You had a great time this year. Hopefully one of these years, Brian will be out there and be able to enjoy it with you.
Thanks, Alan.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Now we'd like to welcome in another favorite guest of iAccess VO, Allison Hartley. How you doing today, Allison?
I'm so great, Brian and Ed. Thank you for having me back again. I had such a great time last time.
Welcome back, Allison. It was so great to have you last time, and we're glad to have you back on again.
Yeah. We've talked to a lot of great people today that were at CSUN getting their different thoughts and everything, and we wanted to find out what impressed you that you saw at CSUN.
Sure, yeah. I went this time to CSUN. This was my second time, and I went as a representative of my company where I work as a manager now for our local office in Napa, California. So it was a bit of a different experience in that my time was very much less my own than when I went in 2014. But I still had a really great time. I still got to see a lot of people, meet a lot of folks from Twitter that I hadn't met previously. So that was really fun. Got to go to some fun parties. But in terms of the tech that really impressed me, I think I'll start with the braille displays that I saw. Some of them have been out for a while and one is new. I got a chance very briefly to check out the Orbit Reader 20 which is the new inexpensive braille display that's coming out as a joint venture between Orbit Research and APH. I actually went to their workshop on it and got to hold it and see about how it refreshes and everything. It's a really, really nice little machine. It's going to sell for under $500. The refresh rate, people were talking about, it's going to take forever to refresh. The refresh rate is really fast, but it's really loud.
Okay.
So it goes click, 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 click. So it would not be suitable for reading something like podcasting notes, which is what I was trying to get a braille display for one of the things I wanted to do. But it does have a text editor, and it does allow you to copy files to it via a SD card. So it's a nice little machine. I would recommend it, especially for folks who are just starting to learn Braille, because the quality of the Braille is better than anything I've ever seen. They call it sign quality. And it's the types of pins that they use that make the Braille super, super sharp and firm. And in fact, one of the people who was doing the presentation mentioned that he was not traditionally a Braille reader, but that he had been learning and doing better at it, primarily because of the Orbit Reader 20. So that was a good one. I ultimately was choosing between the Vario Ultra, which there's new firmware coming out for that. It may already actually be out now, with UVB support and some other cool features like being able to unlock your phone with the Braille display, and the HIMS Braille Edge. I ultimately am going to go with the Vario Ultra because of the fact that it supports some different file types like PDFs, like Excel spreadsheets, some things that I need to look at more in my work and life, that make a little bit more sense for me to sometimes see in Braille. PowerPoint presentations as well. You can get a PowerPoint presentation on a USB thumb drive and just stick it into the Vario and follow along with the presentation at whatever event you're at. I did get a chance to see, going back to HIMS for a minute, the BrailleSense Polaris is an interesting machine. It's the new generation BrailleSense. It, like a lot of the other note takers now, is based on Android. And I really like the fact that HIMS have opened that up, because they were pretty limited on Windows Mobile, and they will still support the older BrailleSense products and even release some firmware updates for them on occasion. But Polaris is their newest flagship note taker. It is way thinner than the old BrailleSense U2. Right now, there's only a Braille version. I don't even think it's out yet. Not quite, but it's getting there. It's a really, really nice machine, and it allows you to have the whole Google Play Store at your disposal. So it really opens up that operating system for people who aren't sure about something like the Braille Note Touch, which you can also put a Braille keyboard on.
That's correct, yes. And you can also type without a Braille keyboard, just on the glass. Yeah.
But for somebody who might want the freedom of Android but might want that familiarity of the BrailleSense environment, it might be a good solution for them. So some of the
they're doing a lot of exciting things with all these Braille note takers, and unfortunately, for Ed and myself, we don't read Braille, so I have the one earpiece in the ear and plugged into something else, listen to my notes. So it would be very nice to learn Braille, and be much more efficient and everything. And we can't stress how important it is, especially for the younger audience out there listening, to really learn Braille and to keep up with it.
Yeah,
well,
like I was telling Allison earlier, I mean, a lot of the work I do, I just see the grade level and the performance and the testing scores of those students that are transitioning from high school to college that do know Braille and are very proficient at it. I mean, they just seem to be at a half a grade to a full grade level higher.
It makes a difference, and learning things like punctuation, grammar, spelling, things like that are stuff you can really only learn in Braille as a child. I see a lot of teachers now really emphasizing the text-to-speech technology, and it's doing such a disservice to those kids. Like I said before we recorded, we could probably do a whole podcast on that. I have some very strong feelings, but guys, it's never too late to start, you can get a free Braille course from the Hadley School for the Blind.
Yeah, the Hadley has a great program, and I've actually started doing that. So I am working
good.
on Braille, but it's a slow process.
I learned the alphabet, and I can get lost in a building still. In an elevator. But now, something that piqued my interest, you said one of the things that you did get to check out because your time was limited was Amazon. Was that an exhibit or a seminar that Amazon put on this year?
Well, they did have a little suite where they were showing off some home automation products, but I was mainly there for the workshops, for some of the workshops where they talked a little bit more in depth about Alexa and Fire Tablet and the Fire TV. I didn't go to the TV presentation. I went to the tablet and the Alexa presentations. And I was just, first of all, really, really impressed that Amazon and Google, two mainstream companies, were such great, vibrant presences at CSUN. Even more so, I would say, than in years past. Google had an awesome party that some folks went to, and I went to another presentation on Google Home. But I really just began to really believe, especially for Amazon, I began to believe in their commitment to accessibility a little bit more this year, a lot more this year than I did last year. I mean, last year, the Fire Tablet came out with the voice view screen reader, and it was a really great first effort, but there were some problems, so much so that I actually gave my Fire Tablet away. But recently I've gotten another one and updated it with the latest firmware, and oh my goodness, has voice view improved.
I'll have to do that because mine's been sitting here as a paperweight.
Yeah, you definitely want to update it because it is so much better. Entering text is still a little bit kludgy, but things like reading Kindle books is actually a really nice, smooth experience for me right now. You don't have to bang on the screen so much when you're double tapping. It's getting a lot nicer. And then for Alexa, they were of course touting Alexa as a home device, but for both Alexa and mine's going to go off here, and for Google Home, I was thinking, because I work in Voc Rehab, I was thinking of the implications for employment as well, because Alexa is getting built into a lot of different machines now, things like cars, other little speakers that are independent. I know, I'm sorry, Alexa, I keep summoning you. I'm right next to her. Things like cars and even little independent speakers and ovens. There was a GE oven that they unfortunately didn't get in time, but they were talking about a GE oven that has her built into it. I'm going to call her from now on. And I was just thinking about, for example, somebody who might be quadriplegic, but who might want to do or have an interest in a job that might be more traditionally hands-on. What if we took the Alexa model and the home automation technology and built it into something? Sorry, darling.
We actually just tweeted out. We just tweeted out an article. It was the top 5 Echo devices that Alexa's built into, and now mine's going to go off. But it's quite impressive how many places she is appearing and everything.
Oh, she's everywhere. And I'm just thinking, like, for example, what if somebody wanted to do a job like, I'm just thinking of something like a drinks maker at Starbucks or something, where maybe she could be built into a headset that they're wearing to account for the noise in that environment. And she could be, through the home automation technology, through some sort of skill, tied into like a robotic arm or something, where somebody who is a quad could talk to her and have the robotic arm doing the physically intensive portions of that job. I'm just, this technology really, what I love about it is it allows you to think big and to, as Apple would say, think different about how things can get done. And that's what really kind of inspired me to start thinking about these implications for employment, both for her and for Google Home. I've actually also ordered a Google Home to do a little bit of comparison between the two. And I have the Amazon TV stick that just came. So I want to really, there is so much cool stuff going on beyond I mean, I love Apple, but there's so much going on beyond what they're doing. One of the coolest presentations I went to was about Microsoft's inclusive hiring program. And they have a specific program just for onboarding, for example, people with autism in a way that is friendly and understanding of the different ways in which people with autism may or may not be able to communicate. Their whole interview process takes into account that somebody might have extreme technical abilities in terms of doing a job at Microsoft, but might not be able to, for example, communicate as fluidly during the interview process, and they don't count that against them because it has nothing to do with their ability to do the job. And so that just kind of expanded my mind in terms of how can we help to apply that model to other employers. So it was just a really great CSUN. I really loved it. It was different. It was different from last time. It was a little more workshop intensive, a little less exhibit hall intensive, but I really enjoyed it.
Ed and I have been, obviously we started this podcast because we loved Apple devices. And now we find ourselves talking more and more. We've been blown away with the things that Microsoft Enable's been doing, as well as Google Access. And the more companies, the more mainstream companies that are producing accessible products, I think the more exciting the times are going to get and everything. And it's great, to look forward. Ed and I are going to have to make it to CSUN next year.
Well, we will have one hell of a party when we're all there next year, hopefully.
There you go. Yeah, even like the last podcast we did, Brian, the stuff that IBM is doing with accessibility too, which we don't know about because a lot of that's on the enterprise level. So from the consumer level, we don't get a chance to see or hear a lot about it. But it's just amazing things that are happening all around us.
Yeah. Now, did Amazon mention described video at all, or did anybody ask them about?
Most unfortunately, they did not, and they didn't call on me. But I would love to see described video content come to Amazon.
Yeah.
Did they talk about the VoIP phone integration with the Echo?
They didn't. Not in the presentation that I went to.
Yeah, because I recently purchased one for my mom who has Alzheimer's as a way for her to, because she's also blind from the retinitis pigmentosa. So the ability to just use the Echo for finding out the day and the time and the weather and things like that, and I just spent a week with her and just trying to get her to remember the name of the device, and that's something I wish that they would make that a little better, where you could maybe change that for people who are in that environment, because it's hard for them to pick up a new name, but you could give them a name that they're very familiar with or they remember easily,
That would be really great if you could customize her name. And it would be, I would think, pretty easy to implement. I mean, you can already call her Amazon or computer or what have you. So you should be able to customize it.
Right. Yeah. We got my mom one for her birthday earlier this year, but now I can never go back to Florida because she plays Broadway show tunes all the time.
Your mom and I would get along very well.
So it's the older generation is really liking these devices.
I know we hear this and say this a lot, but there has never been a better time to be somebody who is blind or visually impaired. The world is literally at our fingertips and in our ability to use our voices.
I actually heard two very interesting technology facts in the last few days. The first was 30% of people actually thinks the cloud exists in the cloud. And clouds,
oh God. Oh, dear.
Which is kind of frightening. The other statistic I heard, which this is from Google, every 2 days there is more data collected and stored than there was from the beginning of mankind to 2003.
Wow.
That's an awful lot of data, but
that is really an astonishing amount of
nobody
data.
was, in the Dark Ages, they weren't storing a lot of data, so.
No.
And you know what, Brian? They didn't have show tunes at their fingertips either.
Yes, true. Not a lot of Broadway execution. Yeah, no, I can only imagine what those shows would have been like. But, well, hey, Allison, this was a lot of fun. Well, you're big on Twitter, so, people want to keep up to you, keep up with you and everything. Why don't you tell the listeners where they could follow what you're up to and what you're doing? And I'm sure you'll be talking more about your great experiences with these Braille devices.
I will be, and I am. I have made a commitment, especially since coming back from CSUN, to really kind of embrace. I will always be an Apple fan first and foremost. I mean, I'm podcasting with you tonight on a brand new MacBook Pro that I just got, but I'm really going to try to be more cross-platform in my approach to technology, because it's so great and there's so many good things happening on all platforms. So my Twitter though is Apple Alley. That's AppleAlli. But you could look for a more balanced approach to the different technologies on my Twitter than there has been previously.
Well, Allison, It's been great having you back on. Thanks so much for letting us know.
Yeah, not a problem. Always a pleasure, Allison, and hope you're enjoying the California weather.
Right now it's raining, but tomorrow it should be nice.
There you go. So, awesome. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
You're listening to Brian and Ed on iAccess VO.
Well, Ed, that was just an awful lot of amazing information from our guests that made it to CSUN. And, it's funny, Ed, I actually had planned to go to CSUN this year, but I had to hitchhike to get there, and I really only made it 1/10 of the mile down the road here.
Well, I think the problem you were having, Brian, is that they kept stopping and they were willing to take Nash, but not you.
That's true. They said we only have room for one. So, but Ed, somebody had tweeted us in, and I apologize because I forgot their Twitter handle there, but asking what we thought might be best if they're a baseball fan, getting the subscription to Major League at Bat, or just getting the games from your subscription to TuneIn. So, you really could use either these days. And when I thought about it, it really depends on what devices you're using, because now, if you are an iOS user as well as an Echo user, the MLB at bat skill on the Echo is fantastic. I've already tested it out with a few games this spring, listened to a few innings of the Yankee game, as well as a couple of other teams and everything. The one thing I did notice, even though you have TuneIn on the Echo, you cannot get the Major League Baseball streams, because there's no way, from what I could tell, to sign in with your same account that's iOS. So I think that's completely unrelated. So if you're living in both environments, you're probably going to want to go with the at-bat subscription over the TuneIn subscription for games.
Okay, that's good to know, because it is so convenient to just tell your Echo system to activate and play whatever you want. So that's really cool, and the speaker system is awesome on the Echo as well.
Yeah, one thing I have noticed though is it's too verbose, because you fire up you tell the Echo to play the at bat, and then it gives you like a good 45 seconds worth of instructions. And even if you try to tell it, like, play Royals game, it just goes through all the instructions first before it starts listening. So hopefully they're going to get away with that. But, because it's like, okay, enough already. I've heard this, what phrases you could use with it. I've heard this 60 times and everything. I don't need to hear it every time I fire up the app. But it's pretty cool. It works great, and it seems like they've worked out the kinks from the World Series when it kept losing connectivity.
It's funny. I know you can say stop, and then you can just say resume, and it'll pick up whatever was playing last. I wonder if you can say skip.
I don't. It does say with the directions that you can pause a baseball game and then pick it up and everything. But
yeah,
I don't think it's going to skip to the next day, because the future, Ed, has not happened yet.
I was talking about skipping the instructions.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you were talking about skipping time and space, but
no. If I could do that, that would be awesome.
That'd be very Jetson-like. So, Ed, a big topic, and this is a rumor, but I think we believe it's going to happen. You're going to be losing your Lightning port on your iPhone, Ed.
Wait a minute, I just lost my headphone jack. I'm losing my home button. Now you're going to take away my Lightning port too?
I'm taking everything, man. I'm going to take your wallet next.
Well, when I'm around you, believe me, I always got one hand on my wallet, so that's a little more protected than apparently my lightning port.
I don't know where I get this nasty reputation.
To know you is to love you, Brian.
18 in life to go, man. But anyway, yeah, no, this is... Apple, they just seem to keep switching things out. And for somebody like me who has a ton of peripherals and everything, it's kind of starting to get a little annoying, because honestly, I always have to make sure, for example, I was taking a class at the Andrew High School library, and I knew I was going to need, headphones on my laptop because, you want to hear the voiceover and you don't want to disturb everybody. I almost forgot that I needed to take my old pair of headphones that came with the iPhone, not the ones that came with the iPhone 7, because those wouldn't work on a computer. So, yeah, that's a lot of thinking for a guy like me.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, Brian, there's been a lot of things that Apple's done, but I don't disagree with this one. I actually like the idea of them going to the USB-C connector because, they've done it with the MacBook. It's working well. The other thing is that the other smartphone manufacturers are already doing this. You've got HTC, you have LG, you've got Google, you've got Samsung. They're all incorporating the USB-C connector into the new smartphones. If Apple does this will be the first time that we have a unified cable system that will work on both ecosystems. I think that's good.
So you're saying, can't we all get along?
Well, it's not can't we all get along, but I got to tell you, have you ever been in a situation where someone needs a charge or you need a charge and, I have an Android, I have an iPhone. Wouldn't it be nice to just plug it all in?
Ed, you're talking about me here, the man of 5,000 charging devices. So, no, I've never needed a charge from a complete stranger. But now, the question for you here, because I didn't do enough research on this before we talked about it. Right. I have a lot of devices like my Bluetooth earbuds that charge via USB. Will USB-C be the same size as USB, or no? Are they different sizes?
Well, no. It's a different size. It's a smaller. It's flatter, which is one of the reasons that they like it. Is that you can it helps make the phones thinner. But the nice thing is with an adapter, you can these are backward compatible. Now the USB-C version is compatible with USB 3.1. Which is, the latest and fastest USB. I'd like to say it's really new, but it's not. This technology actually came out in 2013. But you're talking about 10 gigabytes per second of data transfer. And these things are able to draw a lot of power, which is why the MacBook is able to actually be powered up through the USB-C port. So it is great technology. It's not a straight, simple, dumb cable. There is circuitry in there that allows the cable to determine whether data or power is going through it, and it'll also be the same connector on each end going forward too. So with an adapter, you'd be able to put that larger rectangular USB end that we're so familiar with. But no, it'll work, and I think that over the course of the next several years, if this goes through, I think it's going to be great for us for having great data transfer rates and being able to also get great sound out of it as well. So your headphones can actually use the same connector as this as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, it'll make my 10-foot lightning cables obsolete. And my good friend Daryl could then come stay with me and take another one of them.
He's probably due by now anyway, right?
He's probably due for a new one since that last one disappeared. But, I'll tell you what, the cables will probably be cheaper because they'll be so universal and everything. It won't be that bad to connect. Like currently, I have one of those USB dongles at my desk. You know how much I love saying dongle, and I've got a lightning cord plugged into one slot, and then I've got a USB cord plugged into another. So, I guess I'll still probably need the USB to charge certain devices, and I'll need the USB-C to charge other devices. So just really replacing the lightning.
You're right. but you are right though. The cables will be they may be cheaper, but you still have to be careful because there has been some issues with some very improperly produced USB-C cables where they did fry a couple of devices early on. Amazon actually stepped in and they only sell USB-C cables now that meet USB IF compliance rules. So you have to be careful like anything else. And there are lightning cables that if you buy them from the wrong sources have been known to do some damage to iPhones as well.
Yeah, advice: just don't buy your cables from China. Those are the ones that seem to blow up a lot or something, or cause things to catch fire. And if you're, by the way, if you are interested in a 10-foot lightning cable, little bit of advice: make sure you buy the ones that say Apple certified, because if you get the other ones, they'll work for about a month, and then you'll get a pop-up that'll say this cord is not supported by Apple, and it'll just completely stop working. So if you're ever buying any kind of cables or anything, and it is for the iPhone, you always want to get the ones that are a little bit more expensive, but they'll work a lot longer. Get the ones that say Apple certified.
Yeah, I believe that's the MFI compliance label. So it's
look at the big brain on Ed. He even knows the compliance reference.
Yeah, well, I'm very, very concerned about electronics, so I do try to make sure you get the right cables. But no, there's been a lot going on. I mean, technology is always moving, and I think this new USB-C connector will be good for everybody, and we'll see some great data transfer rates. And in the long run, it's all good.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was just CSUN or not, but I was paying a lot of attention to Twitter this past week, and so much great information coming from Microsoft enabled as well as Google Access and everything, and they were really putting out a ton of useful information. And it's nice to see companies that are that open to the public. And wouldn't it be great if there was like an Apple Access account? Because we hear nothing from Apple as far as anything regarding accessibility.
Well, it's not just Apple accessibility. Apple is a very private company. They do not talk about what they're doing. They don't give any heads up. I mean, the night before release of a product, you don't even know exactly what it's going to be in there until someone gets it and starts tearing it apart to tell you what it is. It's just the way they run their business. It works well for them, I guess. But I think it's great that we see a lot more information. I think Google has been great. MSFT Enable has been great on Twitter, and even IBM. I mean, I'm a little partial to both IBM and MSFT Enable lately because they've been retweeting our podcast and helping spread the word about iAccess VO. So, when you have these larger companies that are taking the time to help, create awareness and educate, I think it's phenomenal.
I just realized that Apple is like the Fight Club of the technology world. You do not talk about Apple. What's the second rule? You do not talk about Apple. But it would just be nice to have them have a little, just finding out, what's going on with accessibility at Apple. It would be nice if they would release a little bit more information and because without communication, failure comes up, and I think maybe that's why we're seeing so many glitches and things coming from Apple. I think there's some communication issues there.
Well, it's the thing is dialogue. You have to have dialogue. It can't all be one way. You have to know the people who are using your products, and if you're not going to communicate with them and then have an open dialogue going back, I mean, I think that's where the issue lies sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. And major shout out, like I said, to MSFT enabled, as well as I believe was it IBM Access or
yes.
Accessible Ali as well, who's been giving us a lot of great references, and they've been tweeting us out and everything. So who knew we would have become, we kind of started as a Apple accessibility show, and we've kind of morphed into a more accessibility for all, and all we care about is who's making life easier for blind people.
Absolutely, and that's the beauty about why we had so many of our friends on from CSUN, because it is this type of conference every year where you get to go and you get to check out and as Laura Legendary said, get your geek on and see what's out there. And you don't have to be a techie to do it. I mean, you can just go out there and just to broaden your horizons, meet other people in the blind, visually impaired community, and there's a lot of fan fantastic people out there, but there's also just the day-to-day people who are grinding it out, looking to see what's going to make their life easier or what they can use to help other people make their life easier as well. So, it's a great conference. Hopefully, Brian, we'll be able to get out there together next year because I'd love to do a show from there.
Yeah, I'd love to get there and meet the geeks and nerds because they're definitely running the asylum these days.
They're making room for you, my friend.
Hey, I am. I guess I've become a nerd. And to quote the great movie Revenge of the Nerds, that and I think we've reached that point where the day where nerd persecution comes to an end. I think we're finally at those days and everything.
Yeah, I think once Bill Gates became the richest man in the world, that was it. It was all over.
Him and Steve Jobs and so congratulations, nerds, you've won, and thank you, I guess, for making the world better for blind people.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's it's gotten us through, and all this technology has helped us to create this is episode 37. Unbelievable.
Wow, 37. Before you know it, we'll be 40, and before that, mid-age, and we'll just keep on going as long as you keep on listening.
Yeah, from infinity to beyond, right?
To the moon. What was that saying from the Honeymooners?
Yeah, to the moon, Alice. To the moon,
Alice. Yeah, it's a little before my time. But I guess, Ed, for now, we are out.
You have been listening to iAccess VO. If you'd like to contact us with ideas and suggestions for future podcasts, please email us at iaccessvo@gmail.com or visit our website at www.accessquest.org.